Battlefield Bad Company 2 is my favorite FPS of all time, and no, it's not just because you can run around with a repair tool in that game and just drill people in their eye sockets, although that does play a major part in it. Now, it might seem like an odd choice to some, and it's never a game that people mention anymore, which is a damn shame. Bad Company 2 is one of the best multiplayer FPS titles of all time, yes, better than the latter games in my opinion, in that franchise such as Battlefield 4. There's quite simply just something about Bad Company 2 that draws me back in year after year. The game thankfully still boasts a small community, although it does see a spike in players whenever a sale hits, which is greatly appreciated. It's unfortunate that DICE has all but forgotten about the game, though the pre-order flag at the bottom of the main menu still advertises Battlefield 3 for crying out loud, but that doesn't dispute the fun that I've had in Bad Company 2 over the years, and it's kind of difficult to put into words. It's spanned over multiple platforms. I first owned the title on PlayStation 3 before making the switch over to PC roughly a year later. It was great to see the game on PC as the original title was a console-only release. Now look, Bad Company 2 has one of the most polished yet unpolished multiplayer experiences of all time, and what does that mean? Heck, even I'm not so sure at times. What I will say is the entirety of the game is basically just mayhem and fun, but at the same time it's very well-rounded. The classes in the game all feel well-rounded. DICE managed to create a game where every weapon can feel powerful, but none of them really feel like a complete upgrade over one another. Looking at you, Battlefront. The Recon class is a perfect example. No rifle in Bad Company 2 is superior to one another. They each have a drawback in one way or another. Some may be more well-rounded than others, but even then, there's another option for something more accurate or with higher damage. You're going to see players still using the starting rifle, the M24, instead of the later unlocked weapons such as the Gall Magnum rifle, and the same applies for other classes such as the Assault class. Each Assault rifle has a strength and a drawback that will aid or punish a player based on how they play. And once again, I see just as many people using the starting Assault rifles and anything in between up until the final ones you unlock. So really, the entire game is about finding your own style of play for every class. And that's something that's really sorely lacking in many FPS games since then. Star Wars Battlefront being one of the more egregious examples over recent years, that game opted for static upgrades based on your level, which entices players to simply use what is the best rather than what they feel the most comfortable with. Now let's move on to the map design. The map design in Bad Company 2 will stand apart from most other games you play. The maps were designed with Rush as the gameplay mode of choice, whereas games since then have tried to create a blend of maps to be able to suit both Rush and Conquest game modes. And believe me, you absolutely feel the difference playing on these maps. In Battlefield 4, Rush maps are often a direct straight line with little other directions for the attackers to go in, which leads into a very meat-grindy scenario. Whereas Bad Company 2 featured curved maps with gradual corners, multiple attack fronts, and ways to reach the objective, as some maps even allowed for direct attacks on beaches, while a sneaky squad could sulk through the jungle behind enemy lines. It's the little things like this that just made the map seem to flow better for both sides. There were plenty of places to go, but less of the issue Battlefield has nowadays when you end up running for 5 minutes at a time just looking for people. The player count was a huge help as well. 32 players, well 24 on consoles, but whatever, was a great number because it didn't crowd maps. If you wanted to be covert, there's a bit less chance to run into an entire squad with their tank. And how can you talk about Bad Company 2 without mentioning the destruction? The destruction in Bad Company 2 is the best mechanic out of any game in the franchise. Entire maps could be leveled by the end of the match, giving that feeling that yes, you were in a battle the entire time. Hey, you see that wall over there? It's now dusk because there's a sniper behind it and I couldn't see him. Whew, the game just feels so good every time you blow anything up. Now granted, the game isn't perfect by any means. It's got a huge issue with hit detection, especially with the shotguns. Often you will shoot someone in their noggin and then they will shrug it off like it was a party popper. And there are also a few ugly textures by today's standards, and the low player count of people currently playing the game does hurt it, which is to be expected. But then things like the sound design kick in, and oh my god, the sound design. When anything explodes or shoots in this game, it's fantastic. It's easily some of the best sound design in video game history. And honestly, I don't know why, but more recent titles have kind of taken an ever so slight step back in that regard. Nothing quite held up to the sound design in Bad Company 2. Seriously, the sound effects are that good. It really is a shame that this game doesn't have the legacy that other games like Counter-Strike enjoy. It was a trailblazer that brought some really interesting game modes and some of the most enjoyable gameplay ever to grace our industry. So I guess what I'm saying is, DICE, someone, please remake this classic.